Chapter 24. Max lifted the ring and rapped the plate 4 times. "I hear footsteps," Isadora whispered. Someone called out, "Who stands before me?" Max tried to slow his breathing. "A pilgrim, true of heart." The door popped open. A woman much taller than Papa or Buelo faced them. She was broad-shouldered with rosy cheeks and a wide smile. Her long silver hair was tied in a tail that draped over her shoulder. She wore a plaid blouse and printed apron over a skirt that came to the tops of her large, incompatible boots, one blue and the other yellow. If people were to see her imposing figure lumbering along the banks at night, Max understood why they might think she was a troll. Or maybe a witch. She looked at Max as though waiting for him to announce himself. He straightened his shoulders. "I am Maximiliano Feliciano Esteban Cordova, son of Feliciano Cordova Jr. and grandson of Feliciano Cordova Sr., and this is Isadora, who is traveling to meet her sister, Rosalina." Lola sniffed the woman's boots and wagged her tail. "That's Lola," said Max, and he pointed to the kitten. "And Churro." "And I am Yadra. Nothing more, nothing less." She rummaged in her apron pocket, pulled out a handkerchief, and gently blotted Isadora's face, dabbing away the blood on her lip. "Isadora, your sister, is waiting at the next safe place so that you may travel on together." She looked at Max. "Were you followed?" "Yes," he said gravely. "To the bridge with all the ducks. We jumped in the river and Lola swam us across. 2 men are looking for us." Yadra pulled them inside and bolted the door. "They won't find you here, but the sooner I move her, the better." Isadora gazed up at Yadra as if she were an angel. "We thought you would be different." "A troll or a witch?" said Yadra. "I've heard what they say. It's been the same my entire life. Everyone thinks they know who I am, even if we've never met." She put an arm around Isadora. "Come, let's get you 2 into some clean clothes, and then I'll give you something to eat and drink." As they followed Yadra down the flight of stone steps, Max suddenly realized how tired and thirsty he was. The enormity of the past few days settled on him. Were they safe now? Lanterns on the rock walls flickered. The yeasty smell of baked bread wafted into the stairwell. Lola pushed past them and darted ahead. "Oh my, one of us is hungry," Yadra said, laughing. "Did I mention I love visitors and dogs?" She reached out and petted Churro. "And kittens, too, of course." "Now, when we get into the cavern, don't be alarmed," said Yadra. "It might seem a bit overwhelming at first. I like to call it my garden of the miscellaneous." At the bottom of the stairs, towers of folded blankets and tablecloths hugged the walls. Large metal bins held boat oars. Glass jars, still labeled with the former contents, pickled eggs, fig jam, pig's feet, had been stacked in gleaming pyramids. Bottles lined both sides of the long hallway. "Where did it all come from?" asked Max, amazed. "They're left-behinds. People on a journey sometimes discard what is not necessary," said Yadra. "Or pass-alongs from the generous river. Because of the currents, anything the river swallows upstream often ends up downstream trapped in my cove. I collect it and pass it along to those in need. Once a year, everything goes to a home for women and children, and then I start collecting all over again." Yadra took Isadora's hand and led them around an old rowboat filled with gloves and socks without matches. She reached in and grabbed 2 socks, one red and the other striped, and handed them to Isadora. They stopped in front of a row of giant baskets. After studying them for size, Yadra pulled out clean shorts and a shirt for Max and a soft purple dress for Isadora and sent them to separate nooks to change. They followed Yadra to a large stone kitchen where the sun streamed in from a small window far above, and a loaf of bread cooled on the back of the stove. "Please, sit," she said, directing them to the table. She hummed and put the kettle on for tea. Max couldn't keep his eyes off of Yadra's shimmery hair and odd clothes, or her wide smile that seemed to make the whole room brighter. She clucked and fussed over them, reminding Max of Mariana and Amelia. Yadra brought the kettle to the table and placed the bread on a board with a round of cheese and sliced it, encouraging them both to eat. Still humming, she fixed bowls of food for the animals. Isadora looked around. "Do you live here all by yourself?" "Not always," said Yadra, "but I keep to myself. I was once a hidden one like you. No one can hurt me now, but the fear of being discovered runs very deep." "You ran away from Abismo too?" said Isadora. Yadra shook her head. "I didn't run away from another country. Cruelty doesn't only happen across borders. Unfortunately, it happens everywhere, even in our own backyards." "What do you mean?" asked Max. "My mother and father were very strict about how I should live my life." Max nodded. He knew how that felt. He couldn't even take the bus to Santa Ynez with his friends. "When I grew into a young woman and was old enough to make my own decisions, my parents were not pleased with my choices. And when I didn't comply with their idea of me, I became invisible to them. My own parents didn't see me. They only saw their own disappointment. They could not accept the living, breathing human standing before them, needing their love." That wasn't like Papa or Buelo at all. They loved Max. But what would it be like when his friends and other people found out his mother was a hidden one? Would they be cruel? Would he become invisible too? "They hurt your feelings," said Isadora. "That must have been a hard time," said Max. Yadra nodded. "Thankfully, others did see me and recognized I needed help. Guardians helped me figure out who I was and where I could fit in the world. One of them told me I didn't have to endure hardship by myself. Isn't that the most comforting thought, that there's always someone to help and you don't ever have to struggle alone?" Isadora slipped from her chair and hugged Yadra. Max blinked back tears. Yadra was so honest and so easily shared her secrets, the sad ones and the hopeful ones. He wanted to be like that. There, both of you," said Yadra, sending Isadora back to her chair. "Enough about me. Maximiliano, I have heard so much about you, and here you are. You're very young to be one of us. Then again, you've been nurtured by guardians. It runs in the family." Max couldn't lie to Yadra. "They don't know I'm here. My father and grandfather weren't home when the guardian came with Isadora. I tricked him and said I sometimes substitute my father, but I don't. This is my first time, so I left a note with Buelo so he would know where I was, but I'm sure he's worried." "I will let them know that you are a worthy guardian and proved yourself. I'm very impressed that you managed all this on your own. You're a courageous and selfless young man to risk your life for another." Max shook his head. "I'm not courageous and selfless. I came for my own reasons." Yadra raised an eyebrow. "Buelo once told me you could help find things and answers to perplexing questions." "Sometimes, yes." Isadora whispered, "He wants to find his mother and make his papa happy again." Yadra sighed. "Well, I'm afraid that's problematic." "But you met her, right?" said Max, "and took her to the next safe place. She must have told you something." Yadra nodded. "I met her, of course, and it's easy to see you're her son with those eyes." He held out the compass. "She lost this, and it meant something to her. I thought I could return it and meet her and see if maybe she'd come home." Yadra leaned back and closed her eyes. When she finally opened them, she said, "You see, Maximiliano, not everything is findable. The road of life is littered with lost things, paper, people, answers, the other half of the pear, the truth. And remnants of someone's happiness can't always be recovered." But she's in Mañana land, and that's the same place you're taking Isadora, right?" Yadra smiled but looked confused. Well, yes, but... Can I go there with you? Blurted Max. To take Isadora and find my mother, please. Yadra slowly poured more tea in their cups. I sense you're motivated by goodness, Maximiliano, and that your heart is true, but it's a difficult journey with hours of rowing. I could help. I'm a good rower, said Max. I want him to come, said Isadora. Yadra looked from Isadora to Max. Well, what about Lola? There's not much room in the boat, and I couldn't risk her barking. She could stay here, said Max. We could leave food and water and make a bed for her. She'll be fine. Yadra's mouth twitched. You know, I could not allow you to go any further than the next guardian. There's a code, I know, said Max. She studied him. Please understand that you may find nothing you are expecting, and everything unforeseen. Max didn't understand, but he nodded anyway.